I remember when I saw this girl the next day at school, she ended up putting a dog collar on me, and she told me, honestly, like, this will let people know you're mine. And at that moment, I realized that this girl was a total freak. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another embarrassing, but I gotta say crazy story. So today's story all takes place back in my high school year, and this was actually my grade 12 year. Now, grade 12 for me was a really weird one because I always wanted to focus on school and make sure I get things done, but at the same time, I still wanted that experience of, like, you know, falling in love and I guess having that high school sweetheart to end my high school years with. In a way, I thought it would be like a perfect happily ever after. But sadly, I don't get those. Because I remember in my grade 12 year, I was walking down the school hallway and there was one girl that every guy in my school always tried to tell me to stay away from. Even from the beginning of grade 9 till now, I was 100% not allowing myself to see this girl. And who was that girl? Well, she was a blonde-haired girl that was, well, very, I guess, out of pocket. Like, you know those girls that will literally say anything that comes to their mind and not give a care about what people think? Well, that was basically this girl. So me and all my friends basically made a pact back when we were in grade 9 to never be around this girl. But obviously, as the years go on and high school continues, grade 12 finally comes around. And me, well, I was feeling down bad. Because in my beginning of grade 9, I was pretty, like, simple, I'm not gonna lie. But going through my high school years, I became more of a player and a bigger player than ever. And I thought, honestly, bro, like, why not talk to this girl? Like, she's actually not that bad and she's kind of fine. So I remember I decided to one time hang out with one of the guys that I made the pact with back in grade 9. And I walked up to him and I told him basically how I was interested in maybe asking this girl out. I remember he looks over at me and he's like, Bubba, you don't want to do that, bro. Wait, what? Why not? Well, bro, she's like ran through and she's like crazy. Like, don't you ever hear about like what she's done? What does she do? Bro, this girl's like a freak. Like, she's possessive, she's crazy, and like she won't care about you. She'll only care about what she can do with you. At that moment, it sounded like a good time, which in my mind now, recording this video, I know it's not. But still, in my mind, I was like, honestly, man, like how bad can it be? Okay, bro, whatever you say, but it's your funeral, is what he told me. And I remember he ended up walking away. So at that moment, I kind of got that as like a seal of approval. And I ended up whipping out my phone and following her on IG. Yes, I straight up went to her social medias and decided to make my presence more known to her, I guess you could say in this day and age. But I remember once I followed her, she instantly followed me back and I DM'd her saying, hey, so like, what you doing this weekend? Nothing much. Wait, aren't you Bubba, like the guy who goes to my school? Yeah, I'm at school right now. Are you not here? No, I guess you could say I'm having like a sick day. I'm down to hang out tomorrow if you want. Yeah, that'll be sick. What time? Oh, like we can meet up like before school. Before school? Wait, what do you want to do before school? Oh, like, I don't know, like see who you really are before we even consider seeing each other. At that moment, I realized that this girl liked to make things quick and easy for herself, which to be fair, so do I. So knowing the player that I was, I ended up saying sure. And the next day when finally came around, things got really awkward because I remember I got to school with my car. Once I parked my car, I saw her literally walking in front of my vehicle and she sat on the hood of my car. Now, first off, number one rule to any girls out there, don't sit on our cars, okay? Like, I don't care if I have a ring on it. I don't care if you're my child. Never sit on my car. So I remember I looked at her and I'm like, yo, like, what are you doing? Why are you sitting on my car? What? You got a problem with that? If you're gonna sit on me, you're eventually gonna have to let me sit on your car. At that moment, I looked at her with my eyes wide open and I'm like, oh, okay. And that's when she literally decided to grab me by my shirt and kiss me right on top of my car. This girl was moving things way too quick, but I guess in my mind, like, she already like somewhat knew me as a person. Well, the rumors of me as a person. So she kind of knew I like things ruthless and just straight to the point. But anyways, from there, I remember we stopped and I looked at her. I'm like, okay, well, I guess things are going good. Yeah, after school, here, I'm gonna write down this place. Meet me there. We're gonna have dinner. Oh, okay. Yeah, I could do that. And she ends up kissing me on the cheek and walking away. Now, at this moment, I started kind of to blush because I'm like, damn, like this girl really is straight to the point on things. But at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, I started to worry just a little bit because knowing how persistent and, you know, how a push she had on us kind of made me worried, but not too worried to the point where I cared enough until after school came around. Because I remember after school came and I went to my car and I opened my trunk and I put my backpack inside. And I remember I went straight to my driver's seat. And once I sat down inside of it, I realized that there was a girl right beside me and she looks over at me and says, hey, Baba, you ready? Oh, wait, what? Oh, wait, how'd you get in my car? It was locked. Oh, don't worry about it. Okay, so basically where we're going to is this place right here. I'm gonna put on my GPS and let's just go straight there. Oh, okay. I thought we were gonna meet there. Did you seriously think I wasn't gonna catch a ride with you? Like, if I'm going to own you, you gotta let me be in your car whenever I want. You should give me like a spare key. At that moment, I started to laugh, but when I looked at this girl's face, she was dead serious. And that's where everything kind of went crazy. Because I remember me and her went to dinner, and the whole time at dinner, she kept asking me really odd questions. Like, for example, she literally asked me in the middle of eating my steak, so like, are you like really that big? At that moment, I choked on my food, and I'm like, oh, wait, What? Yeah, like, you know, I've heard rumors about you. I'm just curious. And no joke, this girl was just straight up ruthless. Okay, like, I can't describe her in any crazier way other than the things she would say really concerned me. But going on from there, I decided to dig into this girl a bit more and get more into her feelings and figure out why she was like this in the first place. And what would you know, the most common answer of why girls are crazy like this was the one reason that most girls are. And if you guys can comment that reason down below, then you guys are smart guessers, because she had daddy issues. And me knowing that Bubba literally means daddy, well, it all makes sense now. During dinner, while she was trauma dumping me on how her dad never liked her and how he ended up basically like, you know, leaving her, she ended up telling me, honestly, like, I just need someone to fill that like hole, and like, I feel like you're that guy. Yeah, I am definitely that guy, is what I responded back to her, and we both chuckled and laughed, and we paid the bill and left dinner. From there, we got inside my car and we ended up driving back to her place because she invited me over. But as I was driving, she kept trying to grab my pants, and like, no joke, like, I just wanted to drive as fast as possible. So I remember literally speeding down the road just to get to her place fast enough to the point where she didn't do anything crazy. And I remember once we finally got to her place, obviously we did the devil's tango. But this is when I realized things went to the worst, because the next day when I woke up, I ended up waking up in her room and we had school to go to. So I literally put on the same clothes as yesterday and drove her to school. When we got to school, I remember some of the boys saw me pulling up and walked over to my car to where I usually park. And when they saw it, this girl came out of my vehicle and I was still wearing the same clothes as yesterday. Well, that's when they all got really upset at me. They all looked at me and said, oh no, bro, no way you stayed at her place last night. Yeah, we ended up going out. Bro, are you kidding me? What about the pact? Well, I mean, like, you know, I don't know, I guess I broke it. You're always the one enforcing the bro code, and now you're just breaking it for some weirdo? At this moment, the girl looked over at what we were talking about, but then she ended up walking away, not caring at all. And that's when all the boys just started to get really annoyed with me. But honestly, I ended up telling them, guys, like, don't worry about it. Things are not going to get any worse. When, I'm not going to lie, it actually did. Because I remember throughout school, she would always spam text me nonstop, and she kept like sending me photos of things that, let's just say, I should not say on the internet. But the fact that she would take these photos in the school bathroom, obviously crazy. And going on from there, no joke, she would always end up stalking me throughout the hallways and follow me throughout the school. And it got to the point where I literally had to walk up to her in the middle of lunch and say, yo, like, I need some space, all right? Like, can you calm down a little bit? Are you breaking up with me? No, I'm not breaking up with you. Why? Okay, well, good, because I got a gift for you. Okay, what'd you get me? At this moment, she ended up pulling out a dog collar out of her backpack, and she ended up putting it around my neck. And she said, here, put this on so people know that I own you. Wait, what? Are you okay, bro? Like, what's wrong with you? Is what I told her. And she said, oh, don't worry. It used to belong to my dead dog. But, you know, since he's not mine anymore and since he's gone, I think it would be perfect around you. At this moment, I knew that this girl definitely had some issues. Major issues. Not only from daddy, but also from her dog, apparently. So I ended up looking at her. I'm like, yo, listen, like, this ain't right. Like, you cannot be doing this to me right now. And that's when she said to me, okay, Bubba, well, choose one or the other. We end things off and break up and make everyone know that you have a small eggplant, or 2, you wear this collar, be my man's, and no joke, I'll give you the best time tonight. At that moment, basically, she made me choose between my dignity as a man and her. And well, obviously, I chose the one thing I knew I was going to choose, my dignity, because no woman can take away my dignity. Okay, bro, one thing I realized that girls are just naturally straight up nasty, bro. Like, it's so weird what girls do nowadays, but what my crush did in this moment, I'm not gonna lie, made me think about not even being interested in women anymore. And no, I don't mean turning gay. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy but also extremely weird story. Now, this story all takes place back in my grade 11 year. Now, in grade 11, I was a major player. You guys would probably know that from watching the channel, but aside from being a major player, one thing about me that was true was that I was a helpless romantic, meaning that I still believed in happily ever afters and, you know, all the gooey, mushy stuff you would see in like a Disney movie. But I remember one time specifically, I was walking down the school hallway with me and some of my homies. We were just getting out of class, and I remember I ended up seeing the one girl in my school hallway that I actually really liked. There was a girl in our school that had blonde hair, blue eyes, and she was phenomenal. Like, she looked amazing, and a lot of guys were actually into her. But one thing about this girl that was really interesting, and I think the main reason why so many people were into her, was because there was some sort of mystery with this girl. What do I mean by that? Well, this girl was very odd in a sense where not a lot of people fully understood a lot about her, meaning that she was basically a mystery. She wouldn't talk about herself herself that much. She wouldn't talk about, you know, who she was hanging out with, who her friend group really was. She was always low-key to herself, which, I mean, I don't mind. Like, a lot of girls, I think, do this, and even a lot of guys especially. But me wanting to know this girl more and be interested in her, I remember my buddy ends up coming up to me and holding me on the shoulder saying, yo, Bubba, you keep looking at her, bro. Why don't you just, like, go up to her and talk to her? I don't know. Do you think I can do that? Do you think I got Riz? What? Bro, of course you have Riz. You know how many girls you pulled? Go up to her. Talk to her, man. So that moment, I'm like, okay, might as well try it out. And I ended up walking up to her. When I walked up to her, I went up to her and said, hey, like, how you doing? Oh, hey, Bubba. What are you doing here? Oh, so, like, you know, I just wanted to, like, you know, talk. It's, you know, we go to the same school and we barely talk together. So I thought maybe it'd be cool to, like, you know, communicate and see what's up. Oh, okay. That's kind of a weird way of putting it. But yeah, I mean, you know, I'm just finishing class and stuff. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. So, what's your number? At that moment, instantly, this girl just gives me her number, which I don't know how that worked, to be honest. I barely spoke any Riz other than me saying that we went to the same school, but somehow it did work. I never expected it to be this easy, but later on in the story, you'll understand why. Because I remember afterwards, when everything was done and over, and me and this girl finished our conversation, I ended up basically shooting her a text as I was walking away saying, yo, this is Bubba's number, and also I'm super excited that we can hang out sometime. I remember she instantly just like looks at me and looks at her phone, and she smiles and walks away. And at this moment, I knew I was in. At that moment, I walked back with the boys, and me and all the boys started talking about, like, you know, how I just pulled a girl and everything, you know, basic excitement from the boys after something cool happens. And this is where everything gets bizarre, because I remember as we're all sitting down in the cafeteria eating lunch, a guy ends up walking up to me. He walks up to me and says, yo, bro, is it true you just asked out that girl? He ends up pointing towards the girl that I just asked out, and I said, yeah, why? Well, bro, don't you know, like, she has a boyfriend already? Wait, what? Are you her boyfriend? Oh, no, I'm not her boyfriend, but like I've seen her, like, go on so many dates, and at this point, there was this one guy she keeps going on date with, and, like, bro, I think she's dating someone. No, I didn't believe this was true, and to be honest, like, why would she cheat? Like, that doesn't seem like her, but at the same time, this girl was a total mystery. Remember, I said that. She was a total mystery. But me hoping with my gut, and I guess the helpless romantic side of me was like, nah, bro, like, there's no way she's dating someone. I think you're just out of it. And I ended up not trusting him. Now, guys in school, fair warning, if a guy gives you a warning about a girl, please actually listen to it and take it and figure it out, okay? Because most of the time, guys have no reason to lie unless they're going for the girl themselves, which I guess in this case, I kind of thought as well, but I don't know. I didn't want to make things too awkward. Going on from there, I remember that day I ended up going into the school parking lot after school ended, and I ended up getting inside my car. And when I got inside my car, I was about to drive and leave until I ended up seeing the girl that I asked out walk up right in front of my vehicle as I'm pulling out. And she ends up standing in front of it saying, Bubba, wait, you drive? Yeah, this is my car. Oh my goodness, that's so cool. Like, that's actually really awesome. Yeah, thanks. So, I was just wondering, what's up? What are you doing? Oh, well, like, my ride ditched me and, like, I have no way to get home. And at this moment, if a girl says that her ride ditches her and you're already in a car about to drive, you might as well bring her inside with you. So I ended up saying, okay, yeah, just get in. I'll drive you to wherever you need to go. Okay, cool. Awesome. And at that moment, she ends up getting inside my car, and instead of putting her address to go home, like, you know, most kids would do after school, she ends up putting an address to a steakhouse that she was going to. I ended up asking her, oh, you're going to dinner? Oh, well, no, it's a family thing. Like, don't worry about it. Okay, if you say so. And I ended up driving her to her family dinner, or so I thought. I remember when I dropped her off, I ended up basically driving away, but as I was driving away, I ended up looking out my window, and I saw that she was hanging out with another guy that she was hugging and holding. At this moment, I was really weirded out, but who am I to really question this, to be honest? Like, at this moment, I really didn't want to believe that this girl was a menace making me drive her to her next date. So I ended up pretending it was like her brother or something, and I ended up implanting that into my mind. But what happens next really messed me up, because I remember after that day, the next day, I ended up messaging her before I went to school and said, yo, after school, you down to, like, go get dinner or something? I really can't, but do you want to meet up at your place maybe after? Oh, yeah, we can go back to my place. I won't say no to that. And at that moment, I was really excited because there was no possible way that this girl didn't want to come over to my place and do the devil's tango. And I remember from there, I was super excited throughout the whole school day, even getting bricked up at some times, which don't get me wrong, it sounds super weird. So just like, you know, pretend I didn't say that. YouTube, if you're watching this, I meant that in a normal way. But going on, and when after school finally came around, I ended up driving home as fast as I could and cleaning up my room. I remember when I got home, I ended up cleaning my room, I ended up making my bed, and I also turned on a candle just to make sure the room smelled nice for when she came over so we could do the devil's tango. And from there, I remember after hours went by and once dinner was finally over with me and my family, I ended up telling my parents that I was having a friend over for a school project. Obviously, my parents didn't believe me, but at the same time, you know, they were being supportive parents no matter what. And that's when I ended up doing the most insane thing ever, where I ended up going downstairs to my room and I texted the girl saying, yo, are you coming over? Oh, yeah, I'll be there in literally like 2 minutes. My dad's driving me. Oh, okay. Are you really with your dad? Well, do you want me to be honest or no? Yeah, I would prefer you be honest, obviously, is what I texted her. And she ends up telling me the most diabolical thing ever, where she says, well, if I want to be honest, I'm on a date with this guy and he really sucks and he's super annoying and just keeps talking about his car. But if I'm being honest with you, I'd rather see you at your place, so I'm gonna make him drive me to yours. Bro, what? At this moment, I was like mind blown because she was on a date already. And instead of ending the date off with him, she's coming to my place to do the devil's tango. Like, what? At this moment, I started to realize and understand why this girl wanted to be like mysterious and stuff. But going on with the story, I remember waiting like 20 minutes later and she ended up finally coming over. She knocked on my door and when I went to go answer it, I ended up seeing that the guy was literally at my doorstep and she looks over at me saying, oh, hey, Bubba, this is my little brother. He's just gonna let me inside now. You can go home. Oh, okay, baby, if you say so. And at that moment, I'm just standing there super awkward because she just introduced me as her little brother. And that's when this guy ends up looking at me super awkwardly. And instead of going for a kiss, he ended up turning around and leaving her alone. And that's when this girl ends up entering inside my place, closing the door on him. And me and this girl, we ended up going straight to my bedroom. We didn't even get to say hi to my parents, which was actually really rude. And once we got inside my bedroom, she ends up cuddling me on the bed. And yeah, we just did the devil's tango right away. Now, this is the part of the story that really just, I guess, really twisted me up and made my mind feel really weird. Because I remember after the devil's tango, me and this girl, we were laying down in bed cuddling. And my parents were asleep at this time because it was already super late. And I remember looking at this girl saying, yo, so like, how is it so easy for you to like, you know, ditch a guy that you're on a date with and just go see another guy? Oh, well, I don't know. I do it so often. And like, guys always offer rides. So it's kind of like a win-win. Okay, but like, why was this guy so annoying? I don't know, he kept asking too many questions, so I'd rather just hang out with you. Okay, cool, I guess. I don't know, when she said that, it gave me like some sick feeling in my stomach that I was not okay with. If anything, I didn't understand why this girl was such a menace. Like, I understand I'm a player and stuff, but a girl being a player, well, it just doesn't feel right to me. Okay, so there are places to do the devil's tango, and there are places to do the devil's beating. But one thing I will say is that doing it in school is definitely not the case. And I'm talking to you men and women. But today's story does get really insane, so make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because seriously, it means a lot when you guys do. And on top of that, this story is about to get insane. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So today's story takes place back when I was in high school. It was my grade 9 year, and I remember basically it was the year when I just started high school, funny enough. And I'm not gonna lie, when you're in middle school, you realize a lot of things that your body's changing and stuff, and when you hit high school, well, I guess people start to use their bodies for many different things. Like, for example, doing the devil's tango with, like, I don't know, really anything that walks. Anyways, I remember my grade 9 year, I ended up taking a class called theater, because I took theater classes because, like, one thing I really wanted to do and pursue my future career was actually, funny enough, be an actor, or, you know, find any way to kind of get rid of my stutter that I had back when I was younger. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I used to have a really, really bad stutter. So I thought maybe taking theater would help me out and also boost my self-confidence for, you know, being in front of the camera or making videos, or I don't know. I just knew I wanted to do something towards entertainment. So I remember I ended up going into my theater class, and when I entered in there, one thing I realized was that there was a lot of weirdos in there. Don't get me wrong, I'm weird, but there was a lot, and I mean a lot of weird people in that class. Like, for example, when I went in there, I remember there was a guy literally picking his nose and eating his boogers while about to make out with a chick that was right beside him. Kind of gross, but I guess, you know, it adds a certain flavor to the kiss. I don't know. It was super disgusting. And there was also another girl in the classroom that was actually, funny enough, not really almost wearing anything. She was wearing a tube top and short shorts, and I'm not gonna gonna lie, at this point, she might as well be in a bikini. But honestly, the teacher didn't care, and it seems like I shouldn't have cared because it honestly doesn't matter, but it was just a super weird class, I'll tell you that much. So I remember I ended up going inside the class, and we ended up sitting down, and I remember we all started going in a circle, kind of introducing ourselves and all that stuff. And I remember when it came to me, I ended up saying, oh, like, hi, my name is Bubba. I like kind of like just do video games and stuff, and the reason I'm taking theater is to make like cool videos. I remember when I said cool videos, there was one chick in that class who actually like looked at me like surprising and like kind of like, I don't know, I guess found interest in me in some way. It was super weird. So I remember basically from there, I kind of just ended up actually, funny enough, making friends with her. I remember I ended up becoming friends with her, but at the same time, one thing I will say is that this girl was super, super weird because like she kind of had like a lisp, but at the same time, the only thing she would talk about is her favorite like movie star actors. And I remember when she was listing out a bunch of actors she liked, she literally ended up saying Johnny Sins. Now, don't get me wrong, that guy's an astronaut, a plumber, a space cadet. I don't know, he's a lot of different things, but an actor? When she brought that up to me, I remember I looked at her kind of oddly and said, oh, okay, cool. Acting like I didn't know who he was. When clearly, I'm not gonna lie, I could probably even be related to Johnny Sins at this point, because like we got a lot in common. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember one thing led to another, and she was telling me how like basically like she was attracted to like a bunch of like movie star actors, and like she was talking about like movie star actors as if she wanted to do the devil's tango with all of them. And what I mean by that is like, for example, she would say something like this: oh my goodness, like did you see like Tom Holland's like acting skills in that movie? Oh my goodness, oh he's like the hottest Spider-Man. Like oh my goodness, I just want to rip that sweatsuit off him. Yeah, weird stuff like that would come out of her mouth like all the time, to the point where I started realizing this girl was one, you know, bricked up girl. So I remember I kind of just like ended up like kind of like staying clear from her, but at the same time she was like my only friend in the class, so I kind of like stuck by her but didn't really talk to her. I don't know, it's like a weird like constellation of basically like just surviving the class in some way. And then I remember when class ended, the girl ended up walking up to me saying, hey, like Bubba, like do you want to like maybe like hang out sometime? Like it was really nice meeting you in the class, and like I was just wondering, like you're pretty cool, like do you want to like, I don't know, like I said like earlier, like hang out maybe? I remember I looked at her, and this girl was like really nervous to ask me to hang out, and I would feel like an absolute weirdo just to say no to her right away. So I ended up saying, oh, like yeah, like we can hang out at lunch if you want. And this girl got super excited about that and ended up leaving. Don't get me wrong, afterwards I kind of regretted saying yes to her, but at the same time it was my grade 9 year. Honestly, the choices we make in grade 9 don't actually like really follow us throughout the school year, so I didn't really care. Anyways, I remember I ended up going to my 2 other classes, and I started hearing rumors about this girl, how she had like a certain toy that she carries around with her, but it was all like a rumor to me. And honestly, one thing I don't do is listen to rumors until like they're proven, and let's just say the rumor was proven, and it all ends up happening like this. I remember when I went to the cafeteria with her, I ended up, you know, sitting down and talking to her, eating lunch with her, and I started realizing that this girl really had like a weird fetish for actors, to the point where I started asking her like, hey, like I was just curious, like there's a rumor going around the school that like you bring like a toy with you everywhere, like I'm just curious, like do you actually? She ended up looking at me all embarrassed and said, oh, like no, like why would I do that? As she's looking like side to side and rolling her eyes, which made her seem really, really guilty. And then I remember I kind of just said, all right, if you say so, and ended up finishing my food. But then afterwards, when I said that, I remember this girl ended up actually not eating with me anymore, stood up and actually walked away. Now, I guess I somehow made her mad and stuff, and don't get me wrong, I mean, it's fair enough. I did bring up something out of pocket that was just a rumor, but you know, who cares? After that conversation went down, I remember the next day at school, I ended up going to my theater class, and I started realizing that this girl was kind of avoiding me, but at the same time being weirded out by me. But don't get me wrong, I was still her only friend in that class, so she stuck by me as well, and we kind of just became partners for everything. And then afterwards, for some reason, in the middle of class, when we were like doing like a acting exercise, I remember this girl for some reason was acting so weird while she was looking at something in her phone, to the point where she got up and ended up leaving the class and said that she had to go to the bathroom. She ended up leaving for the bathroom, and I remember this girl was not returning back to class because she was like gone for like more than 20 minutes. And my teacher was worried about her, so I remember my teacher ended up pointing me out saying, Bubba, can you go find the student? I remember when she asked me to find her, I was really confused and didn't know what to do. But I basically stood up and I ended up looking for the girl and trying to figure out where she was. I remember I ended up walking down the hallway. I ended up looking in the cafeteria. I almost looked everywhere, to the point where then I ended up hearing a noise coming out of the bathroom. It was a noise that kind of went like this. Oh my goodness. Super weird noise. So then afterwards, I remember I ended up going close to the bathroom, and I kept hearing her making really weird moaning noises, to the point where I realized this girl was definitely doing something sus. Then afterwards, I remember I actually ended up going into the bathroom. Now, going into the girl's bathroom is the most dumbest thing, and no one should ever do it because it is severely, I don't know, it's like almost illegal, okay? But I ended up going to the girl's bathroom to see where she was to bring her back to class. And when I went to the bathroom, the moaning got louder and louder to the point where I realized this girl is definitely doing the devil's beating. So knowing this, I didn't know what to do. So I ended up, funny enough, kind of like looking over the stall in the next bathroom stall that was beside her. And I started realizing there were 4 different Devil's Tango toys on the floor of the bathroom. And for some reason, they're all shaped like different eggplants. And I started realizing there were names on the side of them that were of actors, basically, that she really liked. And she was watching, I guess, movies of those actors in it. It was so weird. And I remember I was looking at it and I went, and when I breathed in so loudly, I guess she heard me. I ended up looking up and she panicked. I remember she was freaking out, like screaming, like, oh my goodness, like, what are you doing in here? And basically ended up pulling up her pants and everything. She came out of the bathroom and said, but like, what are you doing? Like, are you serious right now? At that point, I remember I looked at her and said, listen, I'm not gonna say anything, but like, can we go back to class? She looked at me all angry, and let's just say, I want to say like 4 days later, yeah, she wasn't my friend anymore. And basically people ended up finding out about her toys because someone went through her bag and ended up pulling every single eggplant out. Yeah, that guy was me, because I was dared to do it. But anyways, guys, that's basically it for today's story. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, just go for more embarrassing but weird stories. Peace out, guys.